Ah, the Lands Between. It's been a while since I've been here. I almost started to miss this place. Almost. In preparation for the release of Elden Ring's upcoming DLC, we're diving back in to get our characters leveled up, which means we're going to need lots of one thing: runes. We made a rune farming video guide back in 2022, but between patches from the developers and the Elden Ring community discovering new ways to gain runes quickly, the most effective rune acquisition methods look a bit different today than they did in 2022. So, in this video, we're going to take a look at our old methods and some new ones, just in time to tell you how to level up quickly for the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. Before we get started, it's important to note that according to game director Hidetaka Miyazaki in an interview with Famitsu, leveling will work somewhat differently in the DLC, so characters that are over-leveled may not have an outright advantage compared to those that start at a lower level. You will, however, need to be strong enough in the base game to face and defeat Mohg, Lord of Blood, in Mohgwyn Palace, as defeating him unlocks the entrance to the DLC. Mohg is considered to be one of the toughest bosses in the game, so there's still plenty of reason to get those levels up in order to challenge him. Okay, let's get started at the very beginning of a new character's journey. If you want to get farming as soon as possible, you'll need to meet Melina and gain access to Torrent. In our 2022 guide, we suggested that you then take on this group of giants in Storm Hill and trick them into damaging each other for some easy runes. Considering though that the next best rune farm is not difficult to get to, and it's much more rewarding, let's just start preparing for that. Now, we're going to take on an ancient dragon, and to do this you're going to need a bleed weapon. Some classes start with one, but if you're without, the best one to find is in the Weeping Peninsula to the south of Limgrave. Inside of this destroyed caravan is a chest which holds a Morning Star, which has very low stat requirements, so it should be wieldable by almost any character. Also, it's good to pick up and use a gold pickled foul foot, as using this item increases the amount of runes you gain by 30% for 3 minutes. There's one nearby in Limgrave that you can pick up for free on a small cliff to the north of the Waypoint Ruins. This is a consumable item, so once you use it, it's gone, but we'll go over how to craft more of these in a minute for the more advanced farming methods. Now, to find this dragon, travel to the northeast of Limgrave towards the Third Church of Marika. After resting and picking up the nearby items here, walk outside to the north to find a small river with a transporter at the end of it. Activating this will instantly take you away to the very north of Caelid. Rest inside the Bestial Sanctum, then hop on Torrent and ride down the hill to the south, ignoring everything nearby. Once you get to the bridge, ride across it, ignoring the very angry dragon, then ride down the hill towards the minor Erdtree. Ride around the right-hand side of the tree to avoid another boss fight, and then jump up this small ledge, go behind the tree, and jump up the Spirit Spring. In front of you to the left will be a fort. Ride up to it and activate the grace in front of the stairs. Just down the hill from here lies the ancient dragon Greyoll and her brood. She doesn't attack, and her children can't see you when you're behind her, so you're free to equip your bleed weapon, get behind the dragon, and start swinging. While it may seem like you're dealing insignificant damage, what you're doing during this time is increasing the dragon's bleed buildup. When the dragon sustains enough bleed damage, it will suffer roughly 13,000 damage at once, because bleed does damage based on a flat percentage. Keep on swinging and swinging as the dragon's health gets lower and lower. Now, if you fully kill the dragon and wait for it to fade away, it and all of the nearby baby dragons will all die at once, rewarding you with their runes and a bunch of dragon hearts. If you've used your gold pickled foul foot, this will amount to roughly 100,000 runes. They don't come back once you've fully killed them though, making this a one-time event. Alternatively, you can opt to keep the dragon alive with a resting exploit. Make sure you're attacking her tail further up the hill, closer to the site of grace, and watch for the moment that Greyoll makes a sudden movement, as this indicates that you've depleted her health bar. Immediately hop on Torrent, gallop back to the grace and reset the area. If you are fast enough, you will be able to keep the dragons alive while also gaining a healthy amount of runes, making this a repeatable method. The window for this is quite small though, so make sure you're quick. You'll know you failed, like I did on my second try, if you receive a bunch of dragon hearts. Plus, the dragon won't be there anymore. That was pretty telling too. The amount of runes you earn from this repeatable method will be 1 rune shy of 65,000, or roughly 3/5 the amount as you would get for killing them all outright. Which means you can earn more than the one-off 100,000 rune payout as soon as you repeat this process more than once. How much you want to grind is up to you of course, and you may prefer to just do this once and move on, which is also totally fine. It does take ages after all. Just remember that, no matter your choice, you need to eat the gold pickled fowl foot before the dragon dies in order to gain the rune bonus in time. But don't eat it too early, because it does still take a while to kill the dragon. Once you feel that the dragon will be dead after any one of your next swings, use it so that you don't miss out. Now that you've got all these runes at your disposal, you can level up and upgrade your weapons to your heart's content. And speaking of leveling up your weapons, we have a guide to help you find the bell bearings that allow you to buy all the smithing stones you could ever need. We'll have that linked in the description. Let's talk about a few items that will passively boost your rune gains going forward. Directly east of the Smouldering Wall site of Grace in Caelid is a dungeon, the Abandoned Cave. Get as close as you can before making the jump across the chasm to the cave entrance. This dungeon is a bit tricky thanks to it being full of scarlet rot, so check out our Abandoned Cave guide on IGN, which we'll also have linked in the description. After defeating the boss, you'll gain your reward, the Gold Scarab Talisman, which increases all rune acquisition by 20% when equipped. We recommend getting this as soon as you are able to, as it increases every method of rune gathering, making it essential for anyone serious about farming for runes. You could further increase your runes gained by using a gold pickled fowl foot in combination with the scarab that you just got, but you'll need to craft them to keep your supply topped up. To find the crafting recipe, you'll need to enter Murkwater Cave here in Limgrave, where you'll find patches. You can either accept his surrender when he cowers down, or kill him anyway. You can then either talk to him directly, or take his merchant bell bearing to the Twin Maiden Husks in Round Table Hold. From his store, you can buy the crafting recipe for the gold pickled fowl foot, which requires 3 roa fruit, 1 4-toed fowl foot, and 1 gold firefly. You can find roa fruit nearly anywhere in Limgrave, but a simple way to grab a handful of these is to go to the first step site of Grace, grab the 5 or so nearby, and then reset the area and grab them again. To get 4-toed fowl feet, head to this beach in the Weeping Peninsula, north of the 4th Church of Marika, and take out the birds here for a chance to receive a foot from one of them. Make sure you use a bow so that you don't scare the others off. You can also grab plenty of gold fireflies nearby in this small lake to the east of the isolated merchant's shack. Now you've already seen this golden foot in action, so you know that it increases rune gains by 30% for 3 minutes, but combined with the gold scarab, your rune gains become increased by 55% while both are in effect. Keep in mind that the gold pickled fowl foot effect stays active even after you rest at a site of grace, but not if you fast travel. This makes farming methods where you can repeat multiple cycles within a 2 to 3 minute period, like we're about to show you, more ideal for gold pickled fowl feet boosting, as you can use one consumable for multiple attempts. When you're sick of Greyoll and you want to start earning endgame amounts of runes, you'll need to make your way to Mohgwyn Palace. Coincidentally, this is the location you need to have access to in order to start the DLC when it releases, according to the same interview with Hidetaka Miyazaki with Famitsu. The simplest way to get there is locked until you get past the city of Lanedale, which is pretty late in the game's progression, but thankfully there's another way to get there if you complete White Mask Varre's Sidequest. Varre is the NPC you meet after emerging into Limgrave, and by finding him later in the game, you can progress his quest.
Come to the lands between for the Elden Ring?
Once you have defeated Godric in Stormvale Castle, or any other rune bearer for that matter, you can visit the Two Fingers in Round Table Hold by talking to Enya. Once you have done this, you can find Varre in a new location, at the Rose Church in Leonia, south of Rhea Lucaria Academy. When you speak to him and he asks what you think of the Two Fingers, say that they didn't seem right, and he will give you 5 bloody festering fingers. These are used to invade other players' worlds, and you will need to use 3 of these fingers to progress the quest. When we made our guide in 2022, this quest was impossible to complete without an online connection. But in August of 2022, From Software patched in a way to progress this quest offline too. If you're offline, then you'll need to go to the Altus Plateau past Liurnia. We have a written guide linked in the comments if you need help unlocking this area. Once you have, proceed to the Writhe Blood Ruins, found to the east of Mount Gelmir and Volcano Manor, where you'll be able to challenge Magnus the Beast Claw with one of your festering fingers. If you're victorious, you can go straight back to Varre. If you lost, the good news is all you need to do is use 3 of the bloody fingers, so you can invade and lose to Magnus 3 times to progress the quest also, if you're finding the fight a bit difficult. If you're connected to the online service during this quest, then you simply need to use 3 of these bloody fingers. Win, lose, draw, disconnect, it doesn't matter for the sake of the quest. Once you've done all that, either online or offline, speak to Varre again, and when he gives you the option, choose to be anointed. After this, he will give you the Lord of Blood's Favour, a cloth that you are to soak in Maiden's Blood. There are 3 places you can do this in the game. One place is in the Church of Inhibition, to the north of the Frenzied Flame village in northern Liurnia. Irina is an NPC in the Weeping Peninsula that you may have passed by when getting the Morning Star. If she's dead on the side of the road, by your hand or anyone else's, you can also use her blood for the favour. The last location is one of the more straightforward paths. You want to ride to the western edge of Liurnia and up to the 4 belfries. Grab the imbued sword key from the 4th belfry, and then use it to open the transporter that says Precipice of Anticipation. This will take you to the Chapel of Anticipation, where you started the game. Defeat the Grafted Scion to proceed, and then walk up to the chapel where your journey began. You will see a maiden slumped against the wall inside, and when you get close, you will have the option to soak the cloth in her blood. Once you have, return to Varre to complete your task. Continue his dialogue until he gives you the Pure Blood Knight's Medal. This is the item we've been working towards. Varre will warn you not to use it yet, but we don't have to be concerned. Just use it anyway to be transported to an endgame area, Mohgwyn Palace. You want to grab this map and this Site of Grace while you're here at the foot of the mausoleum, but we're actually going to turn around as we don't need to progress towards Mohg's boss arena just yet. We need to go the other way for the next rune farming location. Summon Torrent and then get ready to run past a lot of powerful endgame enemies. You need to keep galloping while sticking to the right-hand wall. Once you can see the lake, swap sides over to the left wall to the east, and then follow it while going south until you reach the bottom of this hill on the other side. Continue galloping past all of these Albinaurics until you reach the top of the hill and this Site of Grace. If you're being chased and things are looking dicey, prioritize activating this rest site so that you can spawn here going forward. Now that we've finally made it to the farming location, it's time to show you one of the safest and most lucrative farming methods in the game. It only requires that you have a bow and some arrows. If you don't have one, you can buy a longbow from the Twin Maiden Husks in Round Table Hold. From the Site of Grace, move quickly to this small rock that's jutting out near the cliff wall and look down at the lake. In front of you is a diseased crow strutting back and forth, and it will be in range as soon as you stand up from the Grace. If you time your shot, take the drop of the arrow into account, and aim through this gap in the branch, you can strike the bird, which will aggro it. Fortunately for you, it seems it can't really fly, and it will just charge off the edge of the cliff, rewarding you with 11,038 runes. You can then go back to the Grace, sit down, and reset the area to get the bird back in the same position to repeat the process. You can even run back to the Grace as soon as the bird starts falling to save time, as you'll see that you're still gaining the rewards while your character sits down and stands back up. You'll know you've gone too fast if your runes don't increase. By repeating this method quickly, and with the Golden Scarab and Gold Pickled Fowl-Foot bonuses in effect, this method nets you roughly 93,243 runes per minute, which equates to roughly 5,594,610 runes per hour. This method is potent enough that it could take you all the way to the final bosses if you're patient. There are multiple places you can stand to take the shot at the bird, but the route we've shown you here is by far the fastest. If you start running short on arrows, you can buy more from most merchants. And if the bird somehow manages to stop itself from running off the edge, don't wait for it to reset. It's faster to just sit down and reset the bird manually. We honestly thought this might be patched back when we suggested this method in 2022, but luckily for all of us, it's still here at the time of posting this video. And speaking of things we thought would be patched, another method we suggested in 2022 was an out-of-bounds exploit that you could pull off in this area that kills all the enemies that are loaded nearby for an instant influx of 110,000 runes, before rune acquisition buffs. This method is bafflingly still achievable at the time of publishing this video, and it's definitely one of the craziest methods here. But when we compared the runes per minute of this method with that of the previous rotting bird method, this one came up short. With this method, when using rune buffs, you'll earn close to the same amount of runes as the rotting bird, with 60,217 runes earned per minute, or 5,600,000 runes earned per hour. But that's without failing the jump and adding the time it takes for falls and accidental deaths. This method is much less safe and takes way longer than the previous one we just showed you, which leads to more opportunities for this method to underperform. So, for those who are more interested in efficient rune farming, we'd suggest steering clear of this and other out-of-bounds methods like it. Finally, we have one last rune farm to suggest, and while this farm is able to be completed when you first arrive in Mohgwyn Palace, its most efficient form is actually only possible after you've defeated the final boss of the game already. We've included this method more for those who want to 100% complete their save file or go on to New Game Plus. This farm is a well-known staple in the community these days, and we were made aware of it thanks to videos made by Varre on YouTube before we went and tested it for ourselves. From the Palace Approach Site of Grace, where we completed the Rotting Bird farm just before, you'll notice this group of mostly passive Albinaurics down the hill. They each give you 2,044 runes and are pretty easy to kill, aside from a few red soldiers who are a bit more aggressive. A high-level character with upgraded weapons can take them down in a single hit each, but what if you could take them all out in one fell swoop? That's right, by using this weapon's Ash of War, you can almost completely wipe out this cluster of foes in a single button press, before sprinting back to the Site of Grace to do it all again. The weapon you need for this is the Sacred Relic Sword. This is a unique weapon that's made available after you gain the remembrance that you earned for defeating the final boss. You need to trade this to Enya in Round Table Hold. Once this weapon is in your hands and leveled up enough, stand on this rock here, use the Wave of Gold Ash of War, and you'll clear the vast majority of the enemies downhill near instantly. This is as fast to repeat as the bird on the cliff from before. But now, instead of defeating one enemy per cycle, we'll be defeating around 15 or more at once. With the Gold Scarab and Gold Pickled Foul Feet in effect, fast and optimized runs of this method will reward you with roughly 218,787 runes per minute, or 13,127,229 runes per hour. That is more than double our previous most profitable method, making this definitively the most effective rune farm in the whole game. It's worth noting that you can attempt this farm with other large area of effect spells or weapon arts. The Blasphemous Blade and Star Scourge Greatswords are able to be obtained faster than the Sacred Relic Sword, and their unique Ashes of War will deal significant damage to multiple enemies at once. But unfortunately, these methods only really come close to rivaling the Rotting Bird method, and they don't even get close to the Sacred Relic Sword. That means for the best results, it's gotta be the Wave of Gold. That's everything you need to know in order to get more runes than you ever knew what to do with. For more Elden Ring DLC preparation, check out our videos on how powerful the Mimic tier is in 2024, or our checklist of things to have done before the Shadow of the Erdtree release. And for all other things gaming and more, keep it here on IGN.